Hey there, this is Laws. Welcome to another Sage video. Today's video we will be looking into the PvP aspect of Sage. Before we move on, I would like to thank all of you who have supported in my previous video when I cover my first experience as a Sage. Also, having other Sage players within the game coming into the comment section and provide valuable insights and informations, helping more players to decide whether or not they will want to change their current class to Sage or even changing their Warlock to Sage. Now I hope that this contribution has brought to you valuable insights on the game and also for the Sage class especially. And today we will be looking into the PvP aspect. Now without further ado, let's jump right into it. Okay, now let's take a look at the PvP skills related to Sage. I'm gonna go through all of them at once because there's only a handful of them. Okay, so the first skill is Magic Rod. This skill mainly repels magic damage from skills 5 times, dealing a certain amount of damage. But the main thing over here, the key thing for this skill is that it steals INT from your target. So this is the formula. Okay, stacking up to 5 times, lasting 20 seconds, and it will also reduce the same amount that is being stolen from your target for 20 seconds. So enhancing our own INT for 20 seconds and reducing the target's INT for 20 seconds as well. Okay, unless the stolen amount is really huge or our very own INT is very high, usually this skill, I would say you will not see too much of the effect that is coming from this skill when the INT is being stolen, because you won't be checking how much INT is being stolen. You'll be just casting this skill to repel any skills, magic damage skills that is cast upon you while having the opportunity to steal INT. So this is to me a little buff for ourselves and a debuff for the opponent. Okay, so next skill is Spellbreaker. Now this skill is, I would say, much more efficient and important as a Sage for PvP, because this skill causes silence for 3 full seconds when the opponent tries to cast, chant, or channel any skills. And this skill's cooldown is very short, I would say, only 6 seconds at max level. So it's pretty a spammable skill, and I actually leave it on auto. So any target that I'm dealing damage on, as the skill cycles goes to, it will just cast upon the target, and a good chance of it will be silencing and interrupting their major skills, especially for the priest, where the resurrection is in play. It will be silence or buff or anything like this. Okay, so this Spellbreaker is one very important skill. I would say the bread and butter skill for Sage in PvP. Now Dispel. Dispel is a very straightforward skill over here, reducing the magic defense of the enemies within a 4-meter radius by 25% for 20 seconds, and removing one buff at 100% chance. Okay, again at max level, the fixed cooldown is just 6 seconds. So these 3 skills are very spammable. Okay, now bear in mind, as a Sage, yes, you can deal high damage if you are very well equipped, but in the PvP setup, I would say the role for Sage is to really support your other teammates, and especially your DPS, your real DPS, like your Sin, your Ranger, and you have the Crit Knights probably, yeah. So the role as a Sage is to support while dealing DPS after that. Okay, and then the next important skill over here is Soul Change. I'm gonna skip health conversion because I personally don't use it, or it is not very useful to me. Maybe you will like it, converting 15% max SP to 15% max HP. In any critical situation you need extra HP to survive, probably this is one skill that you will put into your layout. But for me, I'm just going for the soul change. Now soul change is quite a tricky skill, I would say. It can help both our own party members, and it also can help to debuff enemies. Why do I say so? Because this skill exchanges SP from you to the target, okay, whereby the target will gain your current SP and you will gain 50% of the target max SP. Now, thinking of which, this is like an exchange of what you have against 50% of theirs. It sounds like a disadvantage, right? But if the target is an enemy, it will deplete the SP for 10% every second for 5 seconds. So after the swap, it will continue to deplete a maximum of 50% max SP. Okay, now I will demonstrate this a bit later, but get this in the head that one, you are exchanging SP with your target, either an ally or an enemy. If it's an enemy, it will continue to deplete 50% of the max SP on them. So imagine when this skill is being cast twice on an enemy target, what's gonna happen, right? So this is something very interesting. Yet again, I would say another bread and butter skill for Sage. Okay, now we move out to the passive. These two passive, I would say, is typically targeted at another Sage, because when an enemy casts Spellbreaker, Dispel, or Soul Change, it will deal damage equal to 50% of max SP, whereas Mindbreaker will reduce the target's magic attack and also magic defense for 6 seconds. So the only class that can cast these skills are Sage. So these two passive is mainly pumped for targeting or countering Sage. So since you probably have enough skill points, so just get it up, right? And yep, that is all for the PvP skills. Now there is only like what, 1, 2, 3, 4, I would say, active skills. The rest are passive. So this is something very, very simple, I would say, not so complicated to actually think of what to use. You don't really have to choose, you just need to get them all and slot it in, and that's it, right? So now let's take a look at each of them. How will they affect on the battlefield? What's the effect of it on yourself and the opponent? Okay, now let's take a look at each of them. Firstly, Magic Rod. So Magic Rod, we already gone through that. It will actually repel skill damage, magic skill damage, at the same time stealing INT from our opponent. So let's take a look at how much INT I have currently and how much INT does the opponent have. Okay, so I have 500 and the opponent has 162 INT. Now I'm just gonna cast the skill Magic Rod and then have my target cast a damaging magic attack skill onto me and see how it goes. And then the damaging skill. Okay, now let's take a look at how much INT is there. So right now my INT has increased to 551, that's about 50 more, whereas my target, my opponent, has been reduced to 115. So this actually help us without notice, as we are in the chaos of battling one another. This stealing will help us to increase our defense and at the same time increasing our attack, right? So the more INT we can steal, the better it is. The more tanky we are, and the more damage that we can deal. Okay. Now, next is Spellbreaker. Okay, Spellbreaker is a silent skill, so I'm gonna cast it on my target and then have my target cast a skill, and this is what's gonna happen. Spellbreaker, and immediately it got silenced for 3 seconds. Okay, now what if my target is casting a skill first before I cast Spellbreaker? This is what's gonna happen. Okay, it doesn't work. Only the subsequent skill, it will trigger the silence, because Spellbreaker will only take effect, or the silence will only take effect when Spellbreaker is being laid onto the opponent or target specifically. Okay, now next skill is Dispel. Dispel is basically a skill to reduce magic defense. So I'm just gonna see how much magic defense is being reduced by seeing how much more attack I'm gonna deal. Okay, so I'm gonna try using Frost Diver. Let's see. There's a 41,000 and target is almost dying, so I'm gonna heal it up first. Be right back. And now all fully healed up, I'm gonna cast Dispel again onto the target, and then now try those. So that's 42,000. So there's an increase of probably 1,000 damage, but of course Frost Diver is not a very high damaging skill, but having this debuff on the target will actually help any other magic class. Typically will be another warlock, or maybe you yourself a sage, whereby it will, I would say, permanently being able to reduce the magic defense, because it will last for 20 seconds, but the skill cooldown is only 6 seconds. So in times like this, you can pretty much have a permanent reduction of magic defense, and then the higher DPS or the sage itself can deal higher damage onto the target. Okay, so that is the combo, I would say, for the 3 PvP skills just right here lined up for you. So don't really need to think too much, just get them into one custom skill. And this is what I do by allowing it to auto cast. Okay, every time I'm chasing down one target, I'm freezing, I'm dealing debuff, I'm dealing silence, I'm reducing the magic defense, and then I cast my bolt for damage. Okay, now for the next skill, or say the last skill, is SP change. Okay, so soul change, this is something I would like you guys to take more of a notice, because sometimes it can be a double-edged sword, especially when you are dealing with opponent class. Yes, you can deplete their SP, but at the same time you're going to exchange your current SP with them before depleting. Okay, so it's not a direct depleting of 50% as max SP per cast. Okay, so over here I'm going to take a look how is it going to be like when it's being cast onto an opponent. Over here you can see that I'm going to click on it. We did a swap. Okay, I am gaining 50% of the target's SP, while the target is actually receiving my current SP. So in this case, my current SP is way more than what my target has. So receiving my current SP means I'm giving them 100% SP before reducing 50% of it. Now we're going to do a second time. Now this time round they're going to receive what I have again, which is a 50% of theirs, and I'm going to receive 50% of their max SP again, but this time they're going to receive another 50% depletion. So if I'm going to do this multiple times, as long as the cooldown is gone, I'm going to cast it again. You can see that in given a perfect opportunity or situation, the SP can be depleted way down to maybe a 3 digit, or sometimes it's a 2 digit if the opponent is constantly casting skill while I do the soul change and depleting the SP. Okay, and at the same time I am reducing their defense, I'm stealing their INT, I'm casting them their silence on them. So this is what I mean by kind of like a bread and butter for Sage to do this. With these 3 combo, then do a SP change, so they are silenced, they are not having enough SP to do the casting. Then at the same time we can do a spiderweb to immobilize, do a freeze, and then further on casting down these 3 debuff and then getting them to deplete the SP again. Right, so this is kind of like a my combo which I use in KVM right now, and this has pretty much proved a very effective gameplay. Although I'm not like a warlock anymore where I can deal massive AoE CC and then dealing damage onto multiple target, but right now I am aiming at one particular class that could be a major game changer to the entire battle, and then slowing them down. I can really disturb them and interrupt them their entire sequence, especially when there's silence and when there's SP change over here. That will actually help my other teammates to come and gang up, and then we can take down them one by one. This is what I have for PvP, and maybe just take a look at my sequence over here. I have Firewall and Warmer on the first 4. I mean, by now you all should know my first 4 slots are usually the manual slots, and then the last 4 slots are my auto slots. Okay, so Warmer is a very good skill for PvP because I use it to get out of the tight situation when I'm being frozen, especially where Warmer will actually help me to remove debuff and then giving me immune to freeze and slow for 7 seconds. And I myself already has 100% stun resist, so together with this skill I can pretty much have 100% stun resist and 100% freeze resist right now, and slow as well, right? So I have it on manual, I only use it when I need to. Spiderweb on manual because I'll prefer to do a manual control because there's already Frost Diver to do the auto CC. So this is pretty much for me to chase down because the distance of this skill is 10 meters. It's a very far distance when it comes to PvP. So when I'm chasing down, I'm running around like this, opponent may be running, just kind of like simulate. I can actually just run and it will just auto cast. So that's where it will be immobilized, and then I will come near and do my debuff on auto. I do my soul change, and then again by then spiderweb will be on already cooldown. I'll just cast it again. So this is kind of like a repeat how I do my sequence. Okay, elemental field, I put it on manual because I don't actually use it a lot because most of the time I am running around. Sometimes if I see that the opponent is being clustered in one spot, I will just run in and then cast it while it's almost gonna cast. I'm just gonna stop and let it cast and then run out again, because as a sage you can cast, you can channel while moving around. So this is kind of like a very good flexibility that we have over here. And then for soul change, like I explained later just now, I will actually combine with these auto skills and I'll run around to do a soul change and then immobilize, deal my damage, deal my debuff, repeat, rinse and repeat. This is basically what I do for Sage, right? Now if you would like to see more, stay tuned, and after this we will be looking at probably 1 or 2 KVM matches and choose from my recent battles, and you can see how I play Sage in the KVM match. Well, with that, I hope you enjoy and see value in this video, and see you again next time for more video from Sage and also for Warlock. Thank you. Bye bye.